Hi there. It has been a little while since I've given a weekly tarot reading, but I am back on track this week. I had traveled over the mountain, which was a longer distance this round because we have a sinkhole just outside of Somerset that basically the road has dropped into the river. So it's a much longer trek for me to get to the area where I teach on the Front Range. And that kind of put me behind schedule, as well as a few other things in my life that have been a bit destabilizing for me. Now, I know I'm not alone in that, right? I don't feel like the universe is like casting some kind of horrible fate upon me. I realize that things are shifting and in motion to give me better clarity and a better sense of direction of where I need to be putting my anchor in life, as I'm sure we all are, depending, of course, if you have any natal placements that are being triggered by the planetary placements that are in motion right now. I have a lot of planets in Scorpio, and so all of the energy that's in Taurus right now is in direct opposition to that, and it's giving me a much clearer view of where I need to put my energy and effort. I say that because our opening card for this week's tarot is the Hierophant. The Hierophant is an energy that is actually associated with Taurus, and yet what it is highlighting is our belief systems and how much our belief systems have been changing and transforming over the last couple of years. Now, there's something that could be revealed if we just listen more intently to our own inner voice, and we have to be quiet in our mind in order to do that. The Hierophant is a spiritual teacher. There's something that is being kind of brought up and brought to the table that is being revealed in some kind of way that has much more depth to it than things that we are seeing on the surface level. Of course, the Hierophant is a major arcana, so this is speaking to a life lesson, something that we can't avoid, something that we really have to look at, and perhaps, you feel like you need to go to someone like that is a spiritual teacher for you for some kind of guidance, or you are being called to be in that role. The challenge that we have in the reading today is the Four of Cups. So contemplating some emotional matter, contemplating what happiness looks like. We see this person who's sitting, leaning up next to a tree, and there's these 3 cups in front of them. And, a 3 of Cups is like this satiated pleasure, this like overwhelming joy. And yet there's this 4th cup coming into the arena that's really making us look at if those 3 cups are what bring us happiness, or if there's something else that is perhaps calling our attention to it. The interesting thing about the 4 of Cups is that is really reminding us that happiness doesn't depend on outer circumstances. It actually depends on our own inner being and whether or not we feel happy in our own skin. So there could be something that has arisen in the last couple of days or will possibly arise this week that is going to have you contemplating that question of what does it mean to have emotional happiness? And if it is dependent on something outside of you, is that really the best place to put your anchor? Now, the way through the challenge came in by way of the 5 of Swords. My teacher used to always say the 5 swords was kind of like, are you going to shit or get off the pot? I know that's kind of crude, but really it's like, if there's something to say, are you going to say it or are you just going to let it go? We see this person who's carrying a couple swords, and there's a couple people in the background that look like, they've been kind of dismissed in some kind of way, and the person in the foreground looks a little snarky by it. So there could even have been some sharp words that have really given a change in direction, because this is a number 5 card, right? It gives us this choice of whether or not we want to engage in a situation, and if it's actually in alignment with where we want to put our energy and effort. Now, the ultimate outcome came in by way of the 2 of Swords. So this is a internal measurement that we need to do, right? Again, it's drawing our attention and telling us to look inwards rather than having our decision-making capacity dependent on what's outside and what people say and what people are doing. It's really this internal judiciousness. We see this woman who's sitting on this platform. It's up above all of this water, a big ocean. She's blindfolded and she has two swords across her chest. So, twos are an area of reflection, but this is an area of reflection in the mind. And you can see that her heart is guarded, and yet that's what is going to give an anchor to this decision, is actually listening to that inner compass on whether or not it gives you this encouragement to move forward or stop. Now, there were a few other cards that came in by way of the ultimate outcome. We had the Nine of Pentacles, followed by the Ten of Pentacles, further clarified by the King of Wands, which is why I mentioned Leo a little earlier. We have Mars in Leo right now, and Venus is approaching Leo. Interestingly enough, Venus is going to be going retrograde in Leo around mid-month this month. And so there's something that is in motion right now that will be giving us a chance and time of review, because Venus is going to be in this space for about 4 months' time, which is a pretty big chunk of time considering the length of the year, right? Now, it's further clarified by this Five of Pentacles, which is telling me that there might be something that we decide to let go of, or some kind of loss that we've been feeling that's really making us and calling us to look for a spiritual truth and looking for some kind of silver lining in an experience. And then it's further clarified by this Cosmos card, also known as the World in a traditional deck. I named my card Cosmos card, which is associated with Saturn and this sense of completion and this sense of, something coming into alignment to where it is, if you were, for instance, looking at like this in your ninth house, it would be a sense of completion around some kind of education or some kind of trip. Having Saturn in a specific house is going to be telling of the energy that you're working in, having some sense of sobriety or responsibility around. Because after all, Saturn is the timekeeper, and it reminds us that time is ultimately the most valuable and most precious thing that we have. So we need to be conscious of who we share time with, and if it's a relationship that will help us grow, or if it's a relationship that confines us and constricts us in some way. And so we might be coming to this place where, we literally are measuring emotionally and, of course, mentally, what our happily ever after looks like, what material security looks like, and what projects we need to complete in order to get there. If you felt like your energy has been kind of pulled off your own anchor and led astray, Saturn is an energy that is tying you back, right? It might have been a painful realization. It might have been a very sobering realization. And yet it's there for you to figure out where you want to put your time and where your most valuable time is going to give you a great harvest. So I do encourage you to look at where Pisces is in your chart right now, because that is where Saturn is showing up. Sorry, that's the Hierophant. That's Taurus. That is where Saturn is going to be showing up. Also, where Taurus is in your chart, because that is, of course, where we have currently Jupiter. We also have Mercury up there, which is in conjunction with Uranus. So when you consider Uranus, which is lots of big changes, unexpected changes, and then Mercury coming into conjunction with that, there's this sense of some kind of communication or some kind of exchange or some way of seeing things that is greatly pivotal to our energy and effort. So if you have questions about your chart, if you even want like a short little I guess, conversation, just discussing where the planets are in your chart right now and how it could be influencing you, feel free to reach out to me. I also think that, you know, alongside of seeing where the planets are in your natal chart, it's also really important to keep an eye or a finger on where the moon is and how the moon is aspecting particular placements in your natal chart, because as you observe this, this will give you a sense of how, the planetary alignments are actually working an energy on us to encourage us to, move through certain things. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I hope you're all well, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.